Or are you actually in the North Gate Village Apartments now?
Well, I can tell you it's been a very, very dangerous and extremely fast pursuit. They've been chasing that van right there. Now,
It's exactly what he's doing. Are you Googling the laws right now?
Henderson Police Department's SWAT team responded to the scene and set up a perimeter around the condominium.
I travel in and out of time zones.
And the 3 key rules for a criminal defense lawyer: always on time, impeccably dressed, and occasionally sober.
The yellow sports car up ahead won't stop. Then, something happens you might expect in a Spider-Man movie. It wraps around the tire of the fleeing vehicle and stops all forward motion.
Objection, action answered.
I mean, he leaps over the fucking bench.
No, the thing is, that's my property. You have no choice.
Actually, I do, because I found friggin' Xanax bars on your driver's seat. If you want to explain something, explain those.
Cops get very frustrated when you don't answer their questions.
No.
Step back forward! He's gonna go straight. There's a car right here. Got him.
All right, I'm going to excuse everyone. Mr. Brooks is being removed from the courtroom.
This is fucking hilarious. So he pulls out a joint in court.
Go, 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 go! Turn on your stomach! Stop fighting us! Stop resisting!
The injury by the police, that may be a separate issue for you to file a civil suit.
Chris, just while he's doing that, talk to me. What were you running for again?
Warrant.
Warrants? The felony warrants? City warrants what?
Felony warrant on Kansas.
Well, I'm pretty sure they ran you, and you don't have any warrants.
I don't. No warrants.
No. It's all that for nothing, right? No warrants, no nothing.
Yeah.
Police! A little farther, but a little more. Okay, go.
I'm not gonna sit here and let you fix the trial because you don't want to tell the truth to the jury.
We're there, guys. Got eyes on.
I want to suck it. Yes, I think I would like to suck your dick. I don't think so.
I prefer not to.
I prefer not to, sir. See that? I love that.
So do you wish to say anything?
No, ma'am.
All right, thank you.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Welcome back to the Defence Risks. We have a very special guest on today, Bri. Welcome, Bri. How are we?
Good morning.
It's bright and early over there, isn't it?
6:45 a.m.
Oh, Lord, you've got to be dedicated to true crime. Well, we're doing day 17, the second part in the afternoon of Brian Higgins' interesting testimony before court starts again today for the next day 18 in the Karen Reid trial. So I have a few things I'd like to share along the way. And there is a graphic content warning as well, but I will put that up on screen prior to showing it. So, Bright, now have I got this right? You're a neonatal intensive care nurse, is that right?
I'm a respiratory therapist by trade. I practice adult and pediatric and neonatal.
What was that last word?
Neonatal.
Okay, so you do intubations and stuff, is that?
That's not within my scope of practice here in Connecticut, but it is part of my training, and there are places in the United States where that is allowed. In Connecticut, the most invasive things that we do are insert IV lines and draw arterial blood gases, those types of things. It varies from place to place.
Yep.
Right now, I'm at a 400-bed semi-teaching hospital So it's pretty busy.
Are you in a teaching role or are you actually on the floor?
I go out on the floors. We have students come through periodically. It's mostly teaching for physicians and advanced nurse practitioners. We're affiliated with a larger medical system that covers many hospitals across the state.
Awesome. Well, the brain fart. The viewers are in good hands because I'm actually a registered nurse as well, or was, and worked 8 years in surgical nursing and then 2 years in ICU as well in coronary care. So we should have some good opinions and some good insight into some of these injuries that John O'Keefe has. Basically, a bit of an understanding, but we can explain a little bit more. So
yeah, they definitely don't correlate one-to-one, so to speak, with getting run over by a car.
No, especially not with the rear bumper. I mean, he's a 6'2" man. And no pelvic or leg fractures or anything.
Yeah.
But I was watching last night. There's a YouTube channel called Sean McDonough, and he teamed up with Turtle Boy. He's a retired DEA agent. And welcome. Grab your snacks. Come and sit down. He's a retired DEA agent, and he joined up with Turtle Boy, and he's got a lot of contacts still. And Turtle Boy is the investigative journalist. So the two of them together actually came up with a lot of the evidence that the defense is actually using. And he had 3 nurses on his show, and they all had their specialist opinions and wound specialists and stuff on the actual injuries that he'd sustained and what you would expect from that type of accident, basically. But they also said he had his pancreas. What did they say? His pancreas was damaged, but that was to do with the hypothermia. But he also had some abdominal bruising, no skeletal injuries, but abdominal bruising, like similar to what you would get from being punched. So, but they explained all the hematomas behind his eyes, and it explained a lot more why there wasn't so much blood in the snow where they found him as well. But I'll go into that when we do the presentation. Should we watch Just You Wait, Mr. Higgins? Been singing that all day. All right. So this is the afternoon, day 17, Brian Higgins, ATF, on the stand.
On the 23rd, she did respond with phone works, correct?
In the arrows, like both ways.
Right.
Yep.
And then what did you text after that?
This is where we
just
left
said,
off
thought you were
yesterday.
all set.
And how did she respond?
She said, we're talking? No.
Is that an American thing? I thought you were all set. What does that mean?
So clearly, with that last text,
everything's good to go.
In response to you saying, I thought we were all set, she said, with talking, no. Correct?
Yep. Yes.
Did that indicate to you that with flirting, yes, we're all done?
No, I didn't read anything into it.
Okay.
Ghost did.
You did read where she said, with talking, no, correct?
Yes.
And then you responded, how?
I said, are you sure?
And did she respond?
No.
As a matter of fact, the next time you saw or communicated with her, she was walking into the Waterfall Bar on the 29th, early morning hours of the 20th, late night hours of the 28th, going into the early morning.
It was dark. It was maybe in the area of 8 o'clock.
And what time do you think you got to Waterfall?
I couldn't say. I don't. It was after the hillside.
Before Brian Albert left Hillside, did he tell you that John O'Keefe had been invited over to meet them at the waterfall?
No.
Was there any particular reason why you changed your mind and left the Hillside to go to the waterfall?
Well, I think, as I previously testified, that it was because I didn't always take them up on their offer, and I usually did the Irish exit, and I decided because of the weather and everything else, and it had been a long day, that I would go down there and join them.
Didn't have anything to do with you knowing that Karen Reed might be at the waterfall.
It couldn't have, because I didn't know she or John O'Keefe would even be there. I didn't know who was going to be there other than Brian's wife.
Do you have any text messages with Brian about going to the waterfall?
I don't recall. He told me about it at the hillside.
And once he got to the waterfall obviously before you did.
He did, I think shortly before, yes.
Any text communications between you and Brian Albert about who was at the waterfall or who was expected to come to the waterfall?
No, not that I recall.
Now, you've already indicated, and I don't think we need to go into a lot of detail about this, but I want to ask you just in general, the mood at the waterfall was good spirits, correct?
It was great. Band was playing.
You did not see any sort of tension between John and Karen?
I did not.
Nobody seemed overly intoxicated?
No.
You had several drinks before you even got to the waterfall, right?
I think it was 3 to 4.
Did you drink additionally at the waterfall?
I did, yes.
Did you drink whiskey or beer or what?
Whiskey.
Okay. How many do you think you had?
I couldn't put a number on it. At least a couple.
And ultimately you left from there in your personal vehicle and drove over to, that's the Jeep. Drove
The Jeep,
over to
yes.
the waterfall, correct?
I drove over to the waterfall.
I'm sorry.
I was at the waterfall.
Left the waterfall, drove over to 34th Fairview.
I did, yes.
When John walked in to the waterfall, were you already there?
Yes.
He greeted you, you indicated, correct?
Yes, I believe so.
Karen walked in with him.
Yes.
But she did not greet you, did she?
I think they kind of went like that in different directions.
Right.
Yes.
Did she greet you?
No.
Right. So she walked over toward the corner of the bar, and John came over and greeted you, and then walked over and joined her, correct?
Yes.
Karen didn't stop what she was doing once she was over in the corner of the bar and come over and say hi to you?
I didn't have any interaction with her that night, no.
So safe to say that throughout that evening, once she was sidled up next to John O'Keefe or friends that she was with,
she was very
she never turned
touchy-feely,
back
wasn't
around
she, at the bar?
and came over and even acknowledged you, correct?
That's correct.
So she basically ignored you the entire evening.
That's not how I interpret it, no.
I didn't ask you how you interpreted it. I asked you what she did. Did she ignore you? Or did she pay attention to you?
I love Jackson.
You can go ahead and answer that. Did she ignore you?
No.
So she paid attention to you.
She ignored you.
Came over and said hello, shook your hand, gave you a hug.
Well, just because somebody didn't come over doesn't mean they ignored you.
Did she do those three things?
Hug? What was the other
Did she
thing?
say hello? Shake your
Plant
hand,
one
give
on
you a
you?
hug?
No, she did not.
No, she didn't do any of those things, did she?
No.
It was like you didn't even exist.
I think that's dramatic. No, I don't look at it that way.
Did she ignore you or not?
No, she did not ignore me.
So what did she do to not ignore you?
She was
What's her interaction with you?
Can I answer now?
Sure.
She, in my opinion, she was working the room, talking to people, saying hello, catching up.
Right. The one person she didn't come over to talk to and say hello to and catch up with
was Brian Higgins.
was you.
Well, I don't know that I was the only person, but I was one of the people that she didn't say hello to, yes.
Treated you sort of like a stranger.
I don't feel that way, no.
She actually positioned herself away from you at the other end of the table on the opposite side in the corner. Isn't that right?
I don't know where she was all night, no.
Did
I don't know.
upset you that she ignored
Oh,
you?
like
or
you weren't
didn't pay attention
watching
to you?
her.
I did not feel ignored and didn't upset me at all.
But it bothered you enough to send her a text.
She suddenly became not hot.
No, it was a
Yeah.
flirtatious text. It was just, that was it.
It bothered you enough to send her a text that said, with 6 M's behind it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Remember me?
correct?
No.
Well, it wasn't like that. It was, well, that's it.
Just well, like a well in the ground.
She just wanted a flash in the pan.
I think you know what I mean.
Yeah, I think you do too, sir. You meant, well, when are you going to pay attention to me?
No, that's not correct.
Well, why are you ignoring me?
It's not correct.
Well, am I chopped liver?
All right, that's sustained. Mr. Jackson, let's move on.
At the end of the night, the group basically discussed going back to Brian Albert's house. Is that right?
There was discussion at the table of like, were we going to go to the pizza shop or were we going to go somewhere else? And ultimately it was 34 Fairview.
Before you left,
Is that
just so we're clear.
in the back there? Can you see my cursor? Is that
Yeah.
John's mum there?
I believe so.
And that's his brother Paul.
Yes.
I don't know who. I don't know. Well, the father's not there.
I don't
think.
see the dad. I don't see his dad.
No.
He's been his
And
father.
this guy's the IT guy, yeah.
I never
Sorry?
have found out who he is, but I think he's something on the defense team.
I don't think his parents are together anymore, are they?
I don't
the body
know that.
language I've seen in the
I know
courtroom.
his father has not looked well when I've seen him.
He normally sits here, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought so. All right.
When you texted, well, she ignored that text too, didn't she?
Can you say that again?
When you texted her, well, at Waterfall, she ignored that text too, correct?
Well, that was the only text I sent that night to her. Yes.
Okay.
She didn't respond.
That wasn't my question.
What?
My question is she ignored the text, correct?
Well, I don't know if she. I don't know what her mindset was. If she purposely ignored the text,
Look at his face.
or she didn't see it, I don't know. I didn't read into it.
Did she ignore the text, Mr. Higgins?
I don't know.
Did she respond to the text?
She did not respond.
Got
All right.
So she ignored it. So when everybody was leaving, did you leave before they did, John and Karen, or did they leave before you did?
Hello and welcome. Come
You
join
said
us.
you were the first one back to Brian Albert's house, correct?
Yes.
Safe to say you were one of the first ones to leave.
I was the first one to leave
Waterfall.
the waterfall. Probably.
I mean, if you're if everybody's hurting out and you're the first one to get there, you're probably among the first to leave, correct?
Most likely.
Okay. You never personally discussed going to 34 Fairview with, certainly not with Karen Reed, did you?
No.
And you never discussed it with John O'Keefe either, did you?
No.
You didn't say goodbye or walk over and give John a big hug or anything like that? An acknowledgement, did you?
No.
You just left.
Well, that's what everybody was doing, just leaving.
Okay. You too, correct?
I did leave, yes.
And all you knew that at that point, all you knew was that you were going over to 34 Fairview. You did not know who else was invited over to 34 Fairview.
My impression was that it was an open invitation, and I planned on heading over there.
But you did not know who else was coming.
I had no idea who was coming.
And you didn't say goodbye to John, correct?
I don't think I said goodbye to anybody.
And you didn't talk to him about coming over to 34 Fairview.
No.
I did that on
Yet
Saturday
at
night.
2:20 in the morning, you texted John O'Keefe, you coming here, correct?
At 2:20?
Sorry, 12:20.
I did.
And that had 3 question marks behind it, correct?
Yes.
Did you text Karen about coming over to 34 Fairview?
No.
So at 12:20 a.m., after you left the waterfall and made your way over to 34 Fairview, you were more interested in getting John to come to 34 Fairview than you were to getting Karen to come to 34 Fairview.
No, that's not how I would describe that.
No,
But
he
you
was
didn't
going in the
text
back
Karen,
door because
correct?
John
No,
was
I
going.
didn't.
Karen
You
was
did
going to be
text
there.
John.
Yes.
It's his way of finding out whether or not she was going.
You've indicated that you took your Jeep, your personal vehicle with the plow on it, over to 34 Fairview, correct?
Yes.
And you were among the first to arrive because you were doing that thing with the sort of playing around by plowing his driveway.
It was a sweep of the driveway. Yes.
And then you indicated that you parked in front of the house, correct?
I did.
I know you've been over this before, but I'm going to ask you one final time so it's completely clear. Exactly where was your Jeep in front of that house?
By the mailbox.
Okay. Can we have, with the court's permission, Exhibit 66?
Okay.
This is a graphic representation of 34 Fairview, not a photograph. Just to orient you, do you see
Right
what's
there.
Exhibit 66?
Yes.
Do you recognize it?
Karen's car was here
do.
to start
You
with.
see the mailbox, which is out right there.
Yes.
Okay, where was your Jeep? In
And
relation
John
to
was
that
found over
mailbox?
here.
So the back end of the Jeep, the rear, would have been about around equal with the mailbox, and I was not blocking the driveway.
Okay, so you would have been about there.
They're huge blocks.
If the right edge of that highlight is the mailbox.
Is it a prestige area up that way, right?
It's upper middle class. Upper middle class.
Because they're massive houses with big blocks of land as well.
Yeah.
So is that similar to where you, because you're what, 40 miles south, did you say?
Yeah. I actually live in the city. So
The city of,
I have a rather large house, but the lot is much smaller than what you see in these houses in Canton. I'm on about a quarter of an acre. These houses are on like almost an acre or more.
this quarter of an acre is a standard house block. Well, it used to be when I was buying houses, was a standard house block in Melbourne. But now you can get anything from 300 square meters, which is ridiculous. That's
Well, I grew up in the mountains in New York.
Yep.
So
where are you now? You're not in Boston, are you? You're
I'm in Connecticut,
Connecticut. Okay.
down on the Long Island Sound coast.
So does it snow there?
Yes. Yes, we get our share of snow.
Well, that would have been the front of the Jeep. Where a laser pointer is, it would be the front.
Okay, so the front of the Jeep was facing the flagpole.
It's a good photo.
Towards Chapman Street, correct.
And the rear of the Jeep was basically even with the mailbox strut or stanchion.
It was definitely past the driveway, yes.
Okay.
Your Nettie looks excited.
It's not his turn yet.
You indicated the plow
No.
was a 6 foot, what inch plow?
I think it was a 6'8", 6
6'8",
foot,
meaning the width.
meaning the width, yes.
How deep?
Is he overcompensating, do you think?
How deep? Like,
2 feet, 3 feet, 6 inches?
I mean, it's probably a few inches.
Okay.
It's light
Size-
duty. It's on a Jeep.
Size does matter
And
with
it's
plow.
obviously curved and
Curved.
canted to the right.
No, it wasn't canted at all. It was straight down.
Okay, so it's not like I guess I'm picturing in my mind, I don't know that I've ever seen one, that the front of the Jeep is not
looks
parallel
tired.
to the plow. In other words, it would plow stuff off to the right. Is that not right?
I'm not understanding what you're trying to communicate to me.
How is the plow positioned as it relates to the front end of the Jeep? Is it perfectly parallel to the front end, or is it canted one way or another?
So when you're driving, you're driving straight locally where you're not going to have to worry about overheating the Jeep. I would just have the Jeep plow straight. If I was on the highway for a long distance, I'd be worried about overheating. So I would canter the plow, tilt it up so that air could get through the front grille.
So in other words, you can control it.
I can, yes.
How was it that night?
Is that something that you can just like attach to the front of a vehicle? Or is it? You're on mute, Bri.
Yes, plow. Not all vehicles can accept the plow attachment, but most Jeeps can, and most of them are electrically and hydraulically manipulated, so you can do them from move it from within the car.
Oh, that's what he called it.
I think what Alan's going for here is he wants to plant the seed that this plow was movable from inside and could have been positioned to strike John. Although I don't know if that's one of their theories, but almost anybody could have killed him at this point.
Yeah.
Was it canted that night? Was it straight or canted?
It was straight and straight on.
All right. When you walked into 34 Fairview, you indicated that there were people congregated basically in the kitchen area, correct?
There was some people in the kitchen area, yes.
How many people were at the high top table that you described?
Initially, when I walked in, I believe there was Brian Jr., and he was flanked by one, possibly two females.
And you indicated that basically you were positioned in that area with your back to the door for most of the evening, correct?
I was like I would describe it as diagonally across from him and had my back to the door that I had come in, which would be the breezeway door.
But at some point, you had moved out of that kitchen area with Brian Albert, correct?
Well, I briefly went and looked at some photos.
Right. So you moved out of that area with Brian Albert alone to go to a different room.
Yes, and I think his wife, Nicole, might have popped in the room for a second, but it was brief.
Did you have anything to drink while you were at 34 Fairview?
Well, when I got there, they didn't have any whiskey. I believe they might have put a beer or something else in front of me. And, you know, I knew it was going to be a short night there because I just wasn't going to, I'm not a beer drinker.
You've indicated in a prior testimony that you've never been upstairs in Brian's house, correct?
When you say upstairs, like you're talking like second floor?
Correct.
Yes. No.
Okay. You testified to that in a prior hearing. Is that right?
Yes.
In May of 2023.
Yes.
And you said specifically, quote, "I've never been upstairs." Is that
Yes.
right? All right. You understood when you gave that statement that you were under oath?
Yes.
You were telling the truth?
Yes.
Same oath that you took here today, correct?
Yes.
You indicated that the photos that you saw were on the first floor living room area. Is that right?
I believe that's where they were, yes.
So the only floor downstairs from the first floor would be what?
The basement.
And the only floor upstairs from the basement would be what?
The first floor.
So if someone were to describe going upstairs to look at the photos that you've described on the first floor, where would they have to be to go upstairs to look at those photos?
Are you saying on the first floor?
Correct.
Oh my God.
If the photos are on the first floor,
yeah,
and someone said, we went upstairs to look at those photos, where would they have to be?
I guess upstairs.
The people would have to be upstairs?
Well, the photos would be upstairs. Is that what you're saying?
Where are the people? Where would the people have to be to go upstairs to the living room to look at the photos?
I'm not understanding the question.
If the photos are on the first floor, Mr. Higgins,
Yes.
the only floor beneath it is the basement,
Okay.
and someone says, we went upstairs to look at the photos, where would they have to be?
Well, who said they went upstairs?
All right, so Mr. Jackson, you can save this for argument. Next question, please.
If Brian Albert said you went upstairs to look at the photos, where would you have to be?
Objection.
System.
Now, Brian Albert had a weight room someplace in the house, right?
Yes.
And a gym.
I guess he called it a home gym.
Where was that?
In the basement.
Had you ever been down to that basement before?
Yes, one time.
When was that?
That was during the twins' graduation party. Summertime.
Summertime before?
Summertime before, yes.
Summer of 2021?
Maybe.
So Brian Albert testified.
So on the basement, is a traditional basement in America, does that encompass the entire floor surface area of the first floor, or is it smaller, or like is there a whole nother level under the ground when you say basement?
It depends. The main foundation for a house in the Northeast, that's what the basement would encompass. because they have to, go down so far because of freezing and things like that to keep the house stable. So there are some
So they're a decent size.
houses where the main foundation will be all basement, but then you might have a wing off to the left or the right that might not be, just have a crawl space. But pretty much everything in New England has a basement of some sort.
Yeah, that goes.
And not all of them are finished. Yeah, not all of them are finished. Some of them just hold the furnace and they're just cement and concrete.
Yep.
But I think it's interesting, and Brian is putting himself in that basement at a different point in time, so that if any DNA or any other evidence comes along, he can say, well, I was there a year ago, not this night.
Well, this is all part of my theory, which I'll go through later. But Brian Albert replaced the floor in that basement, I think within 2 months of the incident.
Yeah, it was very.
And then they sold the house as well.
I'm surprised he waited that long.
Yeah. Well, he had someone in his ear, didn't he?
Could have never been in the basement.
Allegedly.
That would not be accurate.
Objection.
Sustained.
Now, you do recall giving testimony at another proceeding on June 1st, 2023, correct?
Yes.
Was that the federal grand jury?
And of course, the same
The June
thing
one?
applied. You were under oath. Is that right?
Yes.
You knew that it was a
Which they
crime
can't
to lie
say.
under oath
Yes.
in that proceeding. During the course of that proceeding, you were asked who was in the house and who you saw come into the house, correct?
Yes.
And during the course of that testimony, you admitted that you observed a tall, dark-haired male enter the Albert house that night, correct?
I believe that was in reference to ask to somebody's brother in a pickup. I don't know if that was during.
All I'm asking
Ryan
you, Mr.
Nagel.
Higgins, is did you say that? Did you say a tall, dark-haired male entered the house while you were there?
I said they might have.
Did you say they might have?
Yes. And that was in reference to somebody's
Just a
brother.
moment, Your Honor.
Yes.
No one's brother came in. They stayed in the car, didn't they? Ryan Nagel and Ricky and
According to their testimony, they stayed in the truck.
not one of them saw his Jeep.
Correct.
Isn't it true that you indicated that a male showed up who may have been Julie Nagel's brother, correct?
I said might have, yes.
Right. But there was no question in your mind that a male did in fact show up, and you described him as tall and dark-haired, right?
Yes.
You were asked, a male showed up where? And you answered, quote, showed up at the house that I didn't know. I think he was there very briefly. I was half paying attention to it. Question, did that male come inside the house? Answer, I believe he did. Do you remember that?
Yes.
So a male did come in the house that night, correct?
No, I said I believe he did. I wasn't sure.
Well,
He was too busy sulking over his beer.
when you testified at the prior hearing, you were asked, so you saw someone else come? Question. Answer, somebody else. Yes. End quote. That's what you testified to under oath, wasn't it?
Is that in reference to that?
What page are you on, Mr. Jackson?
Page.
She's got such a condescending voice, doesn't she? What page are you on, Mr. Jackson?
She does not like the defense.
No.
If I may, can I approach?
Yes.
Did you see the other day when Jen was on and Jackson says, "May I approach?" and Jen says, "Yes."
Thank you.
She got a nerve.
Top part of the highlighted.
Oh, I'm going to turn this fan off. It's freezing. Nobody saw my pajama pants, did they? What have we got? What did I miss?
Nothing. He's just reading.
Excuse me.
Mr. Higgins, do you have that in mind?
I do.
May I approach?
Yes.
You were asked the question, quote, did that male come inside the house? You answered, I believe he did. Question, so you saw someone else come? Answer, somebody else. Yes, correct?
Yes, but I also said that I wasn't paying
Mr.
attention.
Higgins, I realize that you want to explain your answer. I've asked you a very simple question. Is that your testimony in front of another proceeding?
Yes, it was.
At another proceeding, which you were under oath?
Yes, it was.
Okay. You also said that you only remember seeing that person come in briefly. And it looked like he was having a conversation with the two girls briefly, correct?
Yes.
You were asked how long was the person in there roughly, and you said it was quick. Less than a couple of minutes. I mean, it was quick, correct?
Yes.
And then you were asked what he looked like, and you said, I feel like they were a little bit taller. They had dark hair, correct?
Yes.
So you testified that a tall, dark-haired male came into the house at least briefly in your testimony, correct?
Yes.
Approximately when in the timeline of events did that unidentified male enter the residence?
I don't know the time frame. It would have been while I was there.
When you gave your statement to the Massachusetts State Police, you didn't tell them about a tall, dark-haired male coming into the residence at 34 Fairview, did you, on February 3rd?
I don't recall.
You were specifically asked by ADA Lally, when you testified before the state court grand jury on April 28th, 2022, who else was present, correct?
Yes.
And you never mentioned a tall, dark-haired male coming into the house, did you?
No.
However, on June 1st, 2023, at this other proceeding, you were specifically instructed at the start of your testimony that it was a crime to give materially false statements in that proceeding, correct?
Yes.
And that's the proceeding in which you admitted that there was a tall, dark-haired male who came in the house. Yes or no? Yes or no? It was that proceeding.
Can you answer that, yes or no?
No, I can't, Your Honor.
Next question, Mr. Jackson.
The quotations or the quotes that I just read you and that you just looked at,
Yes.
that was from the June 1, 2023 hearing, wasn't it?
I don't know.
Mayor Pro Tem? Yes. That's what was just read, and that's another page. Just take a look at that page and see if you see a date on it, the first page.
I see it, yes.
May I approach?
Yes.
What's the date, sir?
June 1st?
2023?
Yes.
How long did you stay at the Albert residence in total? Like from the time you got there till the time you left?
Maybe like a half hour, less than an hour.
And what time did you leave? Say 12:30, you said?
I think I said between 12:30 and 1 a.m.
And you indicated that you pretty much didn't say goodbye to anybody, right?
At the house?
Correct.
I just kind of left. I said, see you later. Turn around, left.
As a matter of fact, at that same hearing that we just looked at, your statement was, I made a beeline out of there, correct?
I don't know if that's the verbiage I used, but I left.
Why the rush? Why did you leave so quick?
Because it was a long day and I just wanted to go home.
Except you didn't go home, did you?
No, I went back to Canton PD.
Right.
Yeah.
So it wasn't such a long day that you actually drove home. You went back to the Canton Police Department at 1 or 1:30 in the morning, correct?
To move vehicles, correct.
Well, let's talk about you leaving. You walked out the side breezeway door, correct?
Yes.
You walked down the driveway.
Yes.
There's nothing obstructing your view at that point of the lawn to your right, correct?
I didn't look over there, but I would not think so.
Between you and the flagpole, in other words, there wasn't some mound of dirt, something obstructing your view. You could see straight across if you wanted to, correct?
If I wanted to, yes.
It's just basically a flat, grassy lawn with a light dusting of white powder snow on it, right?
I don't know how much snow was, but there was snow there.
Yeah, you indicated that it wasn't even enough to stick to the pavement at that point.
Well, that's when I got there. Yes.
Well, you only stayed less than an hour, right?
That's correct.
So I'm assuming it didn't dump 3 feet in an hour, correct?
I think we can both agree that it's not free. It wouldn't have been 3 feet now.
Right. So it would have been a light dusting of snow.
More snow than there was there.
How far would you say it was from the edge of the driveway over to your Jeep?
From where the back of my Jeep was parked?
Correct.
Maybe a foot or two, or it could have been even with the edge of the driveway.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. It's probably a bad question on my part. When you left the house, as you started to walk down the driveway toward your Jeep, how long of a walk is that? Across the yard to down the driveway to get to your Jeep?
Short.
30 feet?
Maybe.
Okay. During the course of you walking out the door, heading to your Jeep, you didn't see anything out of the ordinary in the yard, correct?
No.
You certainly didn't see a body in the yard.
Of course not.
Now, you get in your car, and it's facing directly toward the flagpole, correct?
It's facing directly up the street. The flagpole would be off to the 1 o'clock.
Right. So just a few degrees off to the right, the flagpole is, correct?
It's off to the right.
Just a few degrees.
I don't know how many degrees, but it's off to the right.
Hola. Welcome,
You're a
Annie.
former military guy, right?
Vegas.
Okay. 1 o'clock means 1 o'clock on a watch. 12 o'clock is due north? Or
What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas.
1 o'clock is just a few degrees to the right, correct?
Welcome.
That's what you meant.
At the 1 o'clock, yes.
Okay. So you didn't see a body when you got in your Jeep.
No, I did not.
Then you turned the engine on, correct?
And the wipers, yes.
And the lights.
Yes.
And the lights lit up everything in front of you, correct?
Yes.
Still didn't see a body, did you?
No, I did not.
Sitting in the driver's seat, you put the car in gear and you begin to roll forward, right?
Yes.
But there was a plow on the ground that scraped for a foot, right?
Yes.
So you picked it back up,
Yes.
looked out the windshield to make sure the plow was situated, and continued to roll forward, correct?
I knew it was up.
When the plows normally come around and do clear the roads off, are they like lit up like a starfish on all sides, like big spotlights everywhere, or?
The municipal plows, like the ones that the state owns or the city's own, yes, they're very well lit, both ahead and to the sides.
Sides, I thought so. In do they do the salt in America like they do in the UK,
Yeah.
or?
Yes.
I remember being in a phone booth in the UK early one morning, and it had snowed. And in the UK, a lot of the roads are one way, and it was in the north, in the northern district, right up near Scotland. And the phone booth just happened to be right at the tip of where the road divided into two. So it basically went left, and then you did a full circle. And I was on the phone to my mum. Actually, I think it was Christmas morning. I was on the phone to my mum back in Melbourne. And the next thing I know, I felt like someone was throwing stones at my ankles. So the salt truck had come past and was spraying salt everywhere. And the little gap underneath where the telephone the glass. All the salt was coming in under there and hitting my ankles.
Yeah, they try to be cognizant of people and cars, but sometimes they just got their minds on something else.
Yeah.
Need to drive.
And as you continue to drive, you're looking ahead of you and probably to your left to make sure that there's no oncoming cars, right?
Well, I knew there was no oncoming cars. I was just driving forward.
Right. So your focus is directly in front of you.
On the road, yes.
And everything in your peripheral vision is right in front of you as well, correct?
Yes.
Nothing obstructing your view.
I mean, other than snow on the car.
Nothing obstructing your view outside toward the lawn. Wasn't another car parked there?
No, I didn't. There was no vehicles in front of me. No.
It was the roadway was relatively empty.
There was no cars.
And you didn't see a body then either, did you?
I did not.
And as you drive past that flagpole with everything lit up and everything in your peripheral vision, you still didn't see a body on that lawn, did you?
I did not.
Give me half an hour's notice before court starts, bro.
You're a former firefighter, is that right?
Okay.
That put you in a position
So you'll make sure we wind it up and catch
and
it
you're
live.
currently a law enforcement officer.
Plenty of time.
That puts you in the position of being a first responder, correct?
I'm also a tactical medic, yes.
Which means that you have training to be an observer. You're a trained observer, more than the average person, correct?
Yes.
You look for things out of the ordinary. You look for things that don't belong. As an investigator, former firefighter, first responder, correct?
Yes.
And you did not see a 217-pound man bleeding out on the side of the road, in the lawn, or in the yard, just to your right by that flagpole, correct?
If I did,
I didn't ask
would have
you
done
if you
something
did.
to help him.
I asked you if you saw one.
No, I did not.
And that's because there was no body there, correct?
I didn't see anything.
Because if there was a body there, you certainly would have seen that.
Objection.
Doesn't look very comfortable, does he?
Where exactly did you go when you left 34 Fairview?
Look at that frown.
I went back to the Canton Police Station.
When you were asked that on direct examination, you said you weren't sure where you went when you left 34 Fairview, either home or to Canton PD.
No, that's not what I testified to.
Did something jog your memory about where you went?
That is not what I testified to. That was in relation to where did I go after I left 34 Fairview the next morning.
Why did you go to Canton Police Department that morning?
To move vehicles, apparently. Hello
What's the
and
question?
welcome. Grab
Why
yourself
did
a
you go to the
cuppa.
Canton Police Department that morning?
The morning when I left 34 Fairview, the Friday into Saturday,
Correct.
to move 2 vehicles.
There's been quite an evolution of that story over the years, has there not?
I don't understand the question.
All right, let's talk about that for a second. You had an initial interview with Massachusetts State Police on February 3rd, 2022,
Yes.
correct? And you indicated during the course of that interview, which was just a couple of days, 5 days after the events in question, that you left Brian Albert's house, went to Canton PD to, quote, fulfill some administrative obligations, end quote, correct? You later said, when you testified in front of the grand jury on April 28th, that you went to Canton PD to do, quote, administrative work, correct?
Yes.
You never mentioned,
I said administrative things.
you said administrative work was your testimony in your transcript.
I believe it was things, but okay.
Okay. Can we agree,
Potato,
Mr.
potato.
Higgins, that you didn't mention anything about moving cars around, correct?
Well, that would be administrative.
So when you
Really?
say I went to Canton PD to do administrative work or administrative obligations, you meant moving your car, your personal vehicle?
Yes.
Okay. Although you didn't say that you were going there to move your personal vehicle, right?
No, I said I didn't move my personal vehicle. I moved work vehicles.
Or either one. You just traded off vehicles, moved them out of the way, right?
I moved the purpose for going back there was to move 2 work vehicles.
And the reality is you had gotten Canton PD earlier in the afternoon and actually moved some other vehicles, traded vehicles, didn't you?
I swapped vehicles out. That's correct.
Right. and you left the vehicles that you now claim you had to go move exactly where they were, even though you knew a blizzard was coming, correct?
That is correct, yes.
So you didn't move the cars a few hours earlier, knowing that you just have to come back and move those cars a few hours later, right?
I was more concerned to go eat and have a drink because it had been a long day.
So wouldn't you want to move those cars early on so you wouldn't have to go all the way back to Canton?
Especially if you knew you were drinking.
Parking lot with these cars in the middle of the night?
Not really.
Mr. Higgins, you weren't actually at Canton PD to do administrative work at 1:30 in the morning, were you?
I was moving the vehicles. I'm sure it's on video.
I'm sure it is.
We'll talk about the video in just a second.
Such a smart ass, Jackson.
You entered the Canton Police Station through which door?
I believe it was the door to the right of the Sally Port as you come in the main entrance.
And you made note of who was on duty that night, correct?
I didn't make note. I walked by, I saw somebody sitting in the control room and then just went about my business.
So you immediately knew that your friend, Officer Good, was working dispatch, right?
So do you need to hear something or? It's really hot over there. So why don't we take a 5-minute?
Court, all rise.
All right, let's skip this bit. Zoom, zoom, zoom. Pass the fan. That's not 5 minutes, Bev. There we go.
Thank you. Right, let's bring Mr. Higgins back. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we're nearly halfway through the afternoon
Mr.
testimony of
Jackson.
Brian Higgins.
Thank you. Mr. Higgins, if you went back to Canton PD at 1 o'clock, 1:30 in the morning, you would certainly be in a position to monitor anything that was happening at Canton PD at the time that at least you were there, correct?
No.
I mean, you would be inside the building, correct?
Yes.
With access to dispatch and anything else that was happening around that floor, that area, correct?
I did not go into dispatch.
You would have access to the interior of the police station at that time if you went back to Canton PD at 1:30 in the morning, correct?
I'd have access.
You could see if there was any activity going on, any calls, call outs, things of that nature.
I didn't have access to that and I wasn't looking for it.
Not that you were looking for it, Mr. Higgins. My question is more simple than that. If you were there, you'd know what was going on inside the building.
No.
So if you walked in, you would just be completely oblivious to anything that was happening. For instance, if troopers started amassing to
Do
go
we
out to
know?
the call,
Do we know how many police officers are part of the Canton Police Department?
I believe that it's around 30, 35.
Oh, so it's a decent building then.
Yes.
Okay.
you wouldn't see that.
Objection.
The objection sustained. Ask it differently.
You were able to monitor, you'd be in a position to monitor what was happening at the station around 1:30 in the morning when you were over there, correct?
No.
So how long did it take you to get home from Canton PD?
A little longer from after I moved the vehicles.
Correct.
I don't know. I mean, it could have been 15 minutes. It could have been 20 minutes.
You live alone?
I do.
You did then?
Yes.
What did you do when you got home?
I think I had something to eat, maybe a couple more drinks.
Heard that.
Then you went to bed?
Was either on the couch or in the bed watching the news.
In any of the prior testimony that you've given in this case, have you ever indicated, that you slept on the couch that night?
I don't know.
Well, you reviewed your testimony before you
Well,
testified.
those would be the two options.
Okay. I didn't ask you about your options. I asked you if you reviewed your testimony before you testified today.
Yes.
Okay. When you reviewed your testimony previous to coming in here today, did you ever testify that you slept on the couch that night?
No, I slept in my bed, but I could have started somewhere else.
Did you ever testify in the previous hearing that you started somewhere else?
Not that I know.
Did you ever mention a couch in any of your description about what you did when you went home that night?
Not that I recall.
As a matter of fact, what you did mention under questioning in a different hearing was that you may have gotten something to eat, then went to bed, put your stuff on the nightstand next to your bed, correct?
That would be the routine, yes.
The ATF agents carry guns?
You did not make or receive
Yes.
any calls after returning home that night.
No.
You were clear when you went to sleep in your prior testimony that you put both your work and your personal phone. You had two at the time, correct?
Yes.
A personal and a work cell phone, right?
Yes.
You put them both on your bedside table because that's what you do every night. Is that right?
Most often, yes.
As a matter of fact, you were asked whether or not you have a charging station, and you said, yeah, it's right on my bedside.
I don't know that I don't have a charging station.
Right, you said no, bedside. In other words, you keep your phone by your bedside, on your bedside table.
Usually.
You also testified that you did not use your phone that night to go on social media, correct?
That's correct.
You indicated that you don't go on, you didn't go on social media because you don't have social media. You don't use it that much.
I don't.
You said, I don't have the gram. I'm guessing that means Instagram, correct?
That is correct.
And you don't use Snapchat and you quote, don't do those things, correct?
That's correct.
All right. So you testified that the first call you received after returning home on the 29th was a call from Chief Berkowitz just before 7 a.m., which woke you up. Is that right?
It was around 6:30-ish, I think.
Okay. Your testimony previously was at some point before 7 a.m., that call was the one that woke you up.
Yes.
And it turns out, Mr. Higgins, that was a lie, wasn't it?
No, it wasn't a lie.
When you were asked that question at a previous hearing, you didn't know that the person questioning you had your phone records, did you?
I assume they did.
And you were thereafter confronted with those phone records, correct?
I was asked about them, yes.
And those phone records established that you and Brian Albert actually exchanged not one, but two phone calls at 2:22 a.m. that morning at a time when you claimed you were in bed asleep, correct?
I have no recollection of any phone calls.
May I approach you on?
Yes. So, which phone did he destroy? His personal one, or he couldn't have destroyed the work one, could he?
Yeah, I'm assuming it's the personal one.
So,
there'd be a lot more questions if he destroyed a piece of government property.
So that's how they know about the butt dials and the chief's phone calls, because that would have come in on the work one, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah, all right. I've got it now.
Yeah,
what's Lally doing?
Whoever knows.
Tell me if you recognize it.
You see what he was doing with his hands?
Do they have a page number for me to follow or no?
I was just asking Ms. Little. I don't think we've introduced them, and no, they don't have a page number, but I'm going to ask that they be marked for identification, at least at this point.
This is where it starts to get juicy, isn't it? From memory.
Do you recognize those?
Yes.
May I approach?
Yes.
These are, you know what, I'm going to, if it's okay with the court, may the witness maintain those documents?
Sure.
He's got that oh fuck look.
I'd like to have those two documents marked only for identification with the court's permission.
Okay. As one exhibit?
We can do it as one exhibit. That's fine.
Okay. Could you please hand those to Madam Clerk?
I swear that looks like a wig she's wearing. What's the matter, Brian? Look at that frown.
Sorry, what was it?
Thank you.
May I inquire?
Yes.
Mr. Higgins, you see the document on the lower right. It has a page number or there's a numeric indicator 01770. In other words, 1770.
On the lower right-hand corner?
In the right. I mean, in the red.
It says 01771.
Look at the next page. I think they're just out of order.
Why don't you come show me? Am I missing something?
Oh, this has been marked over. Sorry, over the top. That's the protocol. It's okay. It's okay. I'll use the one with QQ and the one with 1771 because the other numbers.
When you're referencing them. When you're referencing them?
When I'm referencing them.
Okay.
Take a look at the one that's marked with the QQ.
I see it.
You've seen that document before, correct?
I think I've seen it maybe on a screen, not in my hand.
That was these were the records that were shown to you at a prior hearing?
Yes.
And you acknowledge that at least the one marked QQ is a record of your calls, correct?
It has my name, my telephone number, correct?
And it indicates that on January 29th, 2022, at 2:22 and 35 seconds, you received a call from Brian Albert, duration of 1 second, correct?
Yes.
In other words, Brian Albert called you at 2:22 and 35 seconds, but it looks like you missed the call, correct?
I see the 1 second call, yes.
There's a second call just below that. On the same date at 2:22 and 52 seconds from you to Brian Albert. Do you see that one?
Yes.
And the duration of that call is 22 seconds, correct?
I see that, yes.
So 17 seconds after you missed a call, according to these records, from Brian Albert, you called him back, and there was a call lasting 22 seconds. Is that right?
That's what the records say.
May I approach?
Yes.
He probably said, call me on my private number.
So the fact is, you were speaking to Brian Albert in the middle of the night, approximately 3 hours before Mr. O'Keefe's body was found in his yard, correct?
No, that's not correct.
And that was
Hello,
5
Debbie,
minutes
welcome.
before 2:27 a.m. when there was a Google search for how long to die in the cold, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
And then, of course, you lied about that under oath in that prior proceeding by saying, I don't remember this phone call.
Objection.
Sustained.
Did you, in
Haven't you
fact,
got
tell the
this?
truth at the prior proceeding when you said, I don't remember that phone call?
I always tell the truth.
Did you lie under oath, sir?
No, I did not.
Would you tell us if you did?
Objection, Your Honor.
You acknowledge that there's a 22-second phone call in your phone records, correct?
That's what's reflected by the record.
And 22 seconds is quite an amount of time. Would you agree?
It's 22 seconds.
As a matter of fact, it's about this long, with the court's permission.
The court does not give permission. That's argument, Mr. Jackson.
If we were to count off 22 seconds, that's an uncomfortably long time, is it not?
No,
It's long enough to have a conversation, isn't it?
I didn't have a conversation.
Is 22 seconds long enough to have a conversation?
No.
It was muffled.
A human being can't have a conversation in 22 seconds?
Sure they could. I don't think it's anything of substance.
Okay, so that's my question.
He was talking
22
shit.
seconds long enough to have a conversation.
I don't agree with it, no.
Oh, I'm on a roll.
Now, when you were asked about this,
When you're asked about
when you were
this.
shown these records at prior hearing, you had an explanation for what that 22-second call may have been and what the prior call may have been, correct?
Yes.
What was your explanation?
Well, I used a phrase that people commonly used as a butt dial.
So you think it's possible that you may have butt dialed Brian Albert for a 22-second call that you're not aware of?
I think it's possible that he could have been inadvertently called back, but I have no recollection of that, nor did I have any conversation with anybody.
But you admitted that you lived alone, correct, Mr. Higgins?
That's correct.
You have an iPhone at the time.
Yes.
Matter of fact, that number for the reflecting those records is in fact, or was in fact, an iPhone. Is that right?
Yes.
You already indicated under oath that you don't sleep with your iPhone. You keep it on your bedside table. Is that right?
Most often, yes.
There's nobody else in your room. Is that right?
That's correct.
And you had your ringer on because you were awakened the next morning by a call from Chief Berkowitz, right?
Yes, the ringer was on.
When somebody calls you and you miss the call, there's a notification that shows up on that iPhone. Isn't that right?
I don't know how mine's set up at the time. I don't know.
If you open up your phone app and you go to recents, it shows all the missed calls, correct?
I think you can get to them, yes.
And you know that the iPhone does not automatically call.
Have you had a look at Turtle Boy Live on his YouTube channel yet? You had a chance to have a look?
I've seen some of his stuff.
He actually tries to do a reenactment of the butt dial.
Yeah. I mean, there's an awful lot of butt dialing and phones that can autonomously make calls going on in Canton. I'm just not sure what's going on in that part of the world.
And delete stuff and yeah. I cracked myself up.
That is not a thing, right? Miss a call from someone, it's not just going to automatically re-ring them.
Yes, I think we both know that, yes.
So to call somebody back, you have to go on your iPhone, open it up from a locked position, navigate to a phone application, then navigate to a contact, and then make a call, correct?
Objection.
Sustained. You can break it down.
Sure. In order to call somebody back, if you've missed a call, you first have to unlock your iPhone.
You would have to, yes.
You can do that either through Face ID or through a 4 or 6 digit passcode, right?
Yes.
Don't tell me the code, but did you have a 4 or 6 digit
face
passcode
recognition
locking
in
your
its
iPhone at the time?
I don't know if it was a digit code or Face ID.
Well, if you have a Face ID, you have to have a digit code as well, right?
I guess so.
Okay. Did you open your phone with your Face ID or a multi-digit code?
I have no recollection of answering the phone or calling anybody back.
You also have to navigate, once the phone is unlocked, you have to navigate to the phone app, correct?
I don't know necessarily if you unlocked it with your face, if it would be right there. I've never thought about it.
Once you unlock that phone app, you have to manipulate the phone on the screen with your finger.
You can't see that one there.
I can see that.
Maybe
But
when
it
it's
doesn't-
playing.
Doesn't work on
Come
my
up on
end.
your end.
That's
You
okay.
might be able. I don't think there's a pause on the bottom one either. No. Put your wave and I'll pause it.
Okay.
In order to make a call, correct?
You would have to hit at least one button, I guess.
At least one, right?
Yes.
So that's 3 or 4 interactions with the phone that have to be physically undertaken to just make one call, right?
But I didn't make any calls.
So how'd you butt dial?
I didn't make any calls. I have no recollection of any calls, nor did I speak with anybody.
After you were shown these phone records at that prior hearing, in that hearing at least, you finally admitted that you did in fact call Brian Albert back, but this time you claimed the two of you just sort of sat in silence. Isn't that right?
Objection.
So I'm going to sustain it in that form. You can ask it appropriately, Mr. Jackson.
Did you ever previously testify that you did in fact make the call, but you did not have a conversation during the course of the call?
What I think I testified was something must have happened, but I didn't have any phone call.
Do you remember being asked, quote, did you call him back, end quote, and you answered yes? And then there was a question.
There was a series of questions there. That's only a fragment of what I said.
I'm not done yet, Mr. Higgins. Can you answer my question?
Yes.
To the question, did you call him back? Your answer was yes, correct?
I think it was kind of, I must have.
Then you were asked, well, the answer was yes. And then there was a colloquy back and forth where you spoke over each other's words, right?
It was dialogue back and forth about this whole thing, yes.
May I approach?
Yes. Yes.
So while they're doing that, did do you have when Colin left on your timeline?
Let's have a look, shall we? He went with Alison McCabe, is that right?
Yes.
Yes, so 12:15. And that's as per Lank's statement.
Okay, and then when did Brian Higgins arrive?
Brian Higgins.
Because he has not mentioned that when he listed who all was at the house.
Yeah.
He
said
never
he got home.
mentioned Colin as being there.
He said he got there just after Brian and Nicole got home, so just after 12:10. But there was no phone records on any of them for that. That was their testimony only. But then Jen and Matt McCabe got there at 12:13, and that was confirmed on her GPS.
So Brian arrived before or at the time when Colin would have been leaving?
Before.
Yeah.
Just.
Okay, so another person who has neglected to say that Colin was even there.
Yes. That green area is the time frame that is what we're trying to work out happened. So 12:25 is when the prosecution is claiming John was hit by Karen's car. But he must have left before Ryan Nagel arrived, which is at 12:20, because none of them, the whole three,
none of them saw his car.
Saw him. So he must have only been there. Well, if Brian and Nicole got back at 12:10 and Ryan Nagel gets there at 12:20, he's there for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
That doesn't sound right.
Again, their timelines aren't matching.
No.
And I can see being off a few minutes here or there, but these are big. These are 10 and 15 and 20-minute differences between everyone's timelines.
Yeah.
It's just,
and
again, I'm trying to keep an open mind, but this is just one aspect of this that just does not make sense.
Well, Brian Higgins is claiming that he left somewhere between 12:30 and 1, which throws off the whole Ryan Nagel testimony, or three of them. And then Alison said she arrived home at 12:30, which was wrong because her GPS, her Life 360 data shows 1:30. So her timeline's off. But it still doesn't correlate with Ryan Nagel and Ricky and Heather, who are the three people in the F-150 who didn't see the plow. No, it's not like they could miss it. So something's fishy still. Oh, put it back on.
Pink highlighted answer.
Yes.
What's the question? Please read it for me.
Yeah.
Did you call him back?
What's the answer?
Yes.
Thank you. May I approach?
Yes.
Look at you go.
You then said a little bit further in that same conversation, I did not have a conversation, correct?
I did not have a conversation with anybody.
And the question following that was, you just listened to the phone, what someone was telling you? Answer, it's possible that the phone picked up on the other end and nobody said anything. And then I terminated the call, end quote. That's what you said at the other hearing under oath, correct? Yes or no?
Can I see it?
Sure. Ma'am?
Yes.
Mr. Llewellyn? Same page.
Thank you.
The bottom portion in pink. If you could read that answer to yourself, please. You have that in mind, sir?
No, can I have a minute, please?
May I?
Yes.
Thank you. Does that refresh your recollection about how you answered that question?
Yes.
And your answer was, it's possible that the phone picked up on the other end and nobody said anything. And then I terminated the call. That's the only thing.
Meaning it's possible it could have happened.
It's possible it could have happened that you had a 22-second call with Brian Albert, correct?
I did not have a 22-second call with Brian Albert. There was no conversation.
You've had some time to think about this.
Skippity-skip.
Did you tell him that your vehicle was parked just feet away from where John's body was discovered?
No, because I didn't know where he was discovered.
Did you tell Chief Berkowitz that you and Brian Albert had a call at 2:22 in the morning?
Objection.
Did you tell Chief Berkowitz that you had been flirting with John O'Keefe's girlfriend in the weeks prior to his death?
No.
Did you ever tell Chief Berkowitz about the nature of your interest in Miss Reed?
No, I don't believe so.
Rubbish. Hello and welcome.
Did you tell Chief Berkowitz
Welcome, welcome.
that you had seen Mr. O'Keefe and Miss Reed the night before, and that Miss Reed had ignored you?
Objection.
Sustain. You can break that down, Mr. Jackson.
Thank you, Your Honor. If I may have just a moment.
Every time she says that, I keep thinking of the song. Sorry, Miss Jackson.
You indicated just a second ago that when I asked, did you tell Chief Berkowitz that your Jeep was parked just feet away from where John O'Keefe's body was found, you said, I have no idea where John O'Keefe's body was found, correct?
That's correct.
You had just spoken with Brian Albert, right?
He said in front of the house.
All he said was John O'Keefe was found in front of the house. He didn't say right outside on my front lawn.
I believe he said he was found out in front of his house unresponsive.
Okay. If he was out in front of his house, then you would know, because your Jeep was also parked out in front of his house, your Jeep would just be feet away from him, correct?
Objection.
Did you tell Chief Berkowitz that you had texted John O'Keefe to have him come over to 34 Fairview just hours before he was discovered dead in the yard?
No.
Did you think any of that was important when talking to the Chief of Police of the Canton Police Department?
I'll let him have it.
No, I didn't. There was no reason to tell him.
You've been an investigator for some 15 years, and you were.
It's going to be in your head all day now,
years
Gabby,
before
isn't
that,
it?
correct?
Yes.
You're very familiar with some of the tools that are used in conducting modern investigations, correct?
Yes.
You'd agree that searching electronic devices and phones is an incredibly important investigative tool
Ooh, this
that
is a
modern
good-
investigators use, correct?
Objection.
In that form, I'll sustain it.
Are you aware that searching electronic devices is an important part of investigations?
Objection.
Are you aware of that, sir? Do you agree with that?
I've utilized phone data during the course of my investigations at times, yes.
Okay, so another way to put that is obviously phone data and electronic data is an important part of investigation.
Objection.
Sustain.
Why be evasive on this question?
Well, I object to it.
It's just common sense.
What time do you believe you got
Lally
to Brian
knows where
Albert's
it's
house
headed,
that
that's
morning
why.
after you received the phone calls and woke up? What time did you make your way back over to Brian Albert's house?
Maybe around 7:15 in that area.
Was there any law enforcement presence there when you arrived?
Yeah, now that's what gets
Can't
me.
recall specifically.
That's what gets me. Let me see if I can. Oh, no, it won't show that yet. In the presentation, Yes. John's found at 6 a.m. or 6:03, the 911 call goes out. And by the time Brian gets there, the place is deserted. No crime scene tape. No nothing. Nothing. Are you on? I am on Facebook. I'm not streaming to Facebook, Still Human. I'm streaming on 2 channels on YouTube. One is the Disability Diva, and the other one is the Defense Rests. You should be able to see it in chat, or just type in at the Defense Rests, and you'll see us on there. It's exactly the same. We're streaming on both. I'll have to go back, fix that. All right, sorry. Here we go.
There could have been one police car. I'm not positive.
Very welcome.
Did any officer ever ask you to take a look at your vehicle?
I do put it on Facebook afterwards, after I've streamed. Otherwise, if I stream it on Facebook, you don't get the watch time hours. I learned that the hard way.
At what time?
That time. Actually, at any time.
As long as you like.
No, I to my knowledge, nobody from law enforcement associated with the investigation had ever asked to take a look at my vehicle.
So they certainly didn't ask that day, correct? On the 20.
What I'm saying is, to my knowledge, nobody has ever asked me that.
Right. So that's my point. I'm just trying to break it down.
You want to tell me every instance when somebody could have asked me?
Correct.
Okay.
On the 29th, where you asked whether or not your vehicle could be searched.
Searched or inspected? What do you mean?
Either one.
Well, I would consider a search the inside of the vehicle more so than the outside. I would consider the outside more of an inspection. I would have been happy to show them it.
I'm sure you would have. I'm asking, did they ask?
No.
They didn't ask to search it. They didn't ask to inspect it.
No.
When you met with troopers, who was it that you met with on the 3rd of February?
Trooper Proctor and Trooper Buchanan.
Did either Trooper Proctor or Trooper Buchanan ask to inspect your vehicle, otherwise search it?
Not to my recollection.
And to this day, nobody from Massachusetts State Police has ever indicated that they want to inspect your vehicle.
No.
When you entered the house that morning, Brian Albert was there, Nicole Albert, Jen McCabe, Matt McCabe, Brian Albert Jr., and Julie Albert were all there. I'm sorry, had Julie Albert gotten there yet?
She came after me.
Okay, so at some point, all the people that I just ticked off, they were all inside the house.
Brian
right?
Albert Jr., Nicole, Brian, Matt, and Jen.
You all discussed the incident together, correct?
I wouldn't describe it that way, no.
Did each of you discuss your own perspectives about what had happened the night before in the early morning hours?
Objection.
I'll allow it.
People were in shock at the table trying to figure out what happened. The math didn't make sense. John and the defendant never showed up. People were in shock.
Trying to figure out what to say, right?
No.
And you were all talking within earshot of each other, right?
We were all there in the kitchen talking together.
At this meeting, and these were friends and family, correct?
Excuse me?
These were friends and family amongst themselves, and you being a friend. These are friends and family inside that house discussing this incident, correct?
Yes.
So at this meeting, you actually instructed Jennifer McCabe to call Canton PD and ask someone to come back.
Objection.
Sustained is to that form. You can ask it differently.
At some point, did an officer come back to re-interview Jen McCabe?
Yes.
Jen McCabe had told you that she had information about something that Ms. Reed had said, correct?
Objection.
I'll allow it. Did she tell you that morning?
She didn't specifically tell me anything. She made a statement at the table to the group of people and she clearly seemed like she was in shock. She was upset. And she made a statement, something to the effect that Karen had opined that she had hit John.
What she actually said was, I hope I didn't hit him. correct?
Objection.
It's not what I heard. No.
Who did you ever tell this to?
I've reported that.
That she said, I hit him?
Yes, I've reported it.
What you reported was she said, Karen said, I hope I didn't hit him. And you said, oh, you need to tell Canton PD that. Isn't that right?
No, I don't think that's what I said. No.
You're as sure about that as you are about that 222 call, right?
Objection.
Mr. Higgins, what time did you leave Brian Albert's house?
It would have been, I believe, when Sergeant Lank arrived, and I think Lieutenant Gallagher might have been with him.
You weren't scheduled to work that Saturday, correct?
No.
As a matter of fact, you weren't on duty at all.
No, I wasn't.
But you didn't go home and get some sleep or run errands. You went directly to Canton PD from 34 Fairview yet again, didn't you?
Who could sleep after somebody just was discovered like that?
Did you go home or did you?
I don't believe I did, no. I believe there might have been a stop at Canton PD before I went home.
As a matter of fact, you didn't just stop at Canton PD. You spent the entire day at Canton PD on the 29th, didn't you?
I don't know that I spent the entire day there, no.
Well, you've got a key card, right?
I do have a key card.
And that key card logs swipes.
That's correct.
So it logs where you go, access to, and access inside the
Yes.
Canton PD, correct?
Yes.
When you got to Canton PD, and you're telling this jury, you don't know how long you spent there.
I don't know how long I spent there. I don't know if I left and I came back. I don't recall.
So if the records indicate that you were there from 9 a.m.-ish after 5.
I don't know how the records would indicate that.
I do.
I'll show you in a second.
Okay.
So what do you reckon he was doing
While you
there
were
all
at
day?
Canton PD, did you speak again to Brian Albert?
I don't remember.
I've never had a job where I would
While
have
you were at
spent
Canton PD, did
day
you
off
speak
there all
again
day.
to Chief Berkowitz?
Yeah, exactly. Especially since he'd been there after he'd been to Brian Albert's at 1 o'clock in the morning. And then he wants to go back there as well after work on his day off. Yeah. Yeah.
Most likely.
While you're
I'm
at Canton
calling
PD,
bullshit
did you
again.
speak with Brian Albert's brother, Kevin Albert?
I don't believe so.
Your Honor, may I approach Boothville? Yes. This particular area, but I just want to see if you recognize. May I approach?
Yes.
Thank you.
It's a 167-page document. Just take a glance through it. Obviously, don't read the whole thing. Just glance through it and tell me if you recognize what that is.
So it says Canton Police, all events logged by day.
So don't read it out loud, please.
I'm sorry, Your
Just
Honor.
do you recognize
Yes, I do.
it?
Okay. May I approach?
Yes.
This appears to be a log of key swipes in and around Canton PD, correct?
Yes.
And it's in reverse chronological order, in other words.
I didn't note that, but okay.
Okay. You acknowledge that that is a record of the key swipes that everybody uses moving in and around Canton PD, going through doors, every place that needs a key swipe is logged.
I would assume that's what that is, yes.
All right. It shows that you entered Canton PD for the first time on the 29th at 1:27 a.m. Does that sound about right? When you got there, you say to move your cars.
It's possible.
All right. It shows that you were granted access to floor corridor 227. Does that mean anything to you?
No.
What about floor corridor 226 on the second floor?
second floor would make sense because I went in the building and then to the second floor.
Let me have just a moment, Your Honor.
Sure.
By the way, did Brian Albert ever mention what time the officers cleared the scene?
No.
Without telling me the substance of the conversation, did he tell you when he talked to you at 7:20 or?
Not that I recall, no.
But you remember by the time you got there, the scene had basically been cleared. There wasn't much of emergency vehicles, crime scene tape, nothing like that.
I didn't see fire trucks. I might have saw a cruiser. I can't be sure. I don't recall.
You're not sure about that even?
Sorry, I'm
You're
not
not sure about even seeing a cruiser, correct?
not 100%. No.
You certainly were not contacted by a law enforcement officer who took your name and ID or anything like that.
No.
Parked and walked in the house.
Yes.
Your Honor, may I approach one more time?
Yes.
Same thing. I'd like to have that document marked as next in order, Bates pages. It represents Bates pages 2850 to 3016.
All right, so marked for identification. Is there an agreement this is coming in, Mr. Lally?
There is not, no.
All right, so that's marked for identification, not next in order.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
Thank you.
Mr. Higgins, if you will, I'm sorry, are we ready? Thank you. May I proceed?
Yes.
Mr. Higgins, if you'll look at Bates page 3015, which actually is in order, that's not reverse chronological, it's the second to the last page.
I have it.
Can you take a look at the 8th entry from the bottom?
Hey, Chicky. What's you doing?
I see it.
Does that indicate that this all occurred on 1/29/22? This entry,
Cheers.
at least?
Well, I mean, I only on that 8th entry, I see that's associated with my name. I don't know what the other ones are associated with.
Right. It would be other individuals in Canton PD. I mean, this is the entire log for 129, right?
Okay, but what all I'm saying is that just my name is next to that. I don't see any other names. So
Right.
okay.
So on 1/29/2022, I'm just trying to orient you. At 127 and 52 seconds.
I see it.
Access granted, Brian Higgins, rear entry to secure corridor, rear entry to secure corridor, correct?
Yes.
All right, so that appears
I'm
to
gonna
be
leave that
what
one well alone.
the log entry or the key swipe entry looks like when it's logged, correct?
Yes.
If you look at page 2967, I'm sorry, I said it backwards, 2976.
Okay.
Take a look at.
So you said 2976?
That's Bates page 2976. That's the bottom right-hand.
I see it. Yes.
Look at the time entry for 9:23 and 39 seconds.
923 and what?
39.
And that's on 2976?
Should be.
Give me the time again, please.
Why don't we do it this way? May I approach?
Yes.
This is an exact copy.
Yeah, this time's all over the place. My apologies. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Is it 20 past 9 or 20 past 8 there in America?
And 9:23.
Yep,
I'm sorry.
8:17.
I do. I see it. It's highlighted.
So we got 40 minutes.
39. That shows that you were granted access to the Sally Port to front exit, front entry to Sally Port.
Yeah,
correct?
about 40 minutes.
Yes.
So
There's only one Sally Port.
Skip a bit of this.
Canton PD, correct?
Yes, and there's a door on each
So
side. of the
basically
Sally
just go
Port.
through
Two bay doors, right?
Two bay doors on each side.
how
Yes.
many
there's
times
a-
he swipes his card in and
pass-through.
out of the Sally
Personal
Port.
pass-through door as well. 'Cause it's reversed.
You said 357.54, correct?
Correct.
That's what I just read.
No, after that,
Routine?
it's when
No, and if that says that I'm logged, that could be me cutting
Mr.
through.
Higgins, all I'm asking you, I'm not asking you what you did. I'm asking you where you were.
I don't know where I was at that specific time.
Well, you walked into the Sally Port. We know that,
If I walked in, I
correct?
cutting through. Yes.
Right. Was Chief Berkowitz in the Sally Port at 4:14?
Not that I recall. No,
Was he there at 4:30?
I don't remember ever seeing him in the Sally Port. No,
Was he there at 4:33?
I don't remember ever seeing Chief Berkowitz in the Sally Port.
Karen's car in?
4:50.
Objection.
Sustain. Let's move through this, please.
Was it Berkowitz? that
Finally,
bought Karen's
was he
car?
there at 5:36 and 37 seconds at the same time Karen Reed's vehicle was delivered?
I don't remember.
Do you remember Chief Berkowitz, or were you with Chief Berkowitz when he made a call to the front desk?
No, I don't remember anything like that. No.
Do you remember Chief Berkowitz calling the front desk at 5:42 and saying, "Shut the barracks"?
Objection.
Sustained.
Do you remember any kind of call shutting the barracks, meaning shutting the Sally Port?
Objection.
Do you remember that?
You know that they know the answer to this already.
You didn't leave Canton PD until close to 6 p.m. Isn't that right?
Does he know what they've got at this point whilst they're questioning him?
he has to. He's in law enforcement. And I'm certain that he's testified enough to know that a lawyer does not ask a question that they don't already know the answer to.
But does he know that they've... Well, he must do because he brought his attorney with him, didn't he?
Yeah. Yeah, the juicy parts.
Sorry, spoiler alert.
the real juicy parts are coming up.
Yeah.
I don't know what time I left.
Could it have been
Well,
5:50,
we should
6
make good
o'clock?
time then.
I don't
It'll
recall
feed
what time I left.
Directly into his cross starting again.
You're aware that there's video surveillance feeds in the Sally Port garage, correct?
That's correct, yes. Around the building.
Were you in the Sally Port at 5:36 when the car was delivered?
I don't have any recollection of that, no.
It's one thing to say I don't remember. It's another thing to say, no, I was not there.
I don't remember being there, no.
Is it possible that you could have been there when that car was delivered?
I don't believe I was, no.
You don't believe you were? or
I
you
don't
weren't?
believe I was, no.
You're aware that the video surveillance feed from the Sally Port garage at or around 5:36,
Yeah.
precise time when the car was delivered, it's just missing, right?
Objection.
Sustain.
That's convenient, isn't it? How much time was missing on the tape?
Did you receive a flurry of phone calls from Brian Albert and Chief Berkowitz indicating that some taillight pieces or a taillight piece had been recovered at 34 Fairview later that evening?
Objection.
Sustain.
Did you receive a call at all, without telling me what the conversation consisted of, around 6:12 p.m. from Brian Albert?
I don't know what day you're referring to.
the 29th?
No, I don't remember any phone calls like that.
Do you remember 3 minutes later getting another call from Chief Berkowitz at 6:16 p.m. that lasted about 5 minutes and 15 seconds?
No.
You don't remember much, do you?
May I approach?
Yes.
You look at the entries for 6:12, 6:16. See if that refreshes your recollection.
Are you referring to the?
6:12 and 6:16.
Good
Okay, I see those. Yes.
There was a call at 6:12 that Brian Albert made to you for a duration of 1 minute and 7 seconds, correct?
Yes.
And right after that, there was a call from Chief Berkowitz to you at 6:16 that lasted 5 minutes and 15 seconds, correct?
Yes.
May I approach?
Yes.
They telling you that taillight pieces had been found at the location.
Objection.
Sustained.
Your Honor, may we approach briefly?
Okay.
See, that shows how experienced Brian is. He knew that question was objectionable, and he waited. He waited for Larry.
I'm gonna have to watch that.
Call at 6:12
I missed it. I was
that Brian Albert made to you for
looking
a
at
duration of
something
1
else.
minute and 7 seconds, correct?
Yes.
And right after that, there was a call from Chief Berkowitz to you at 6:16 that lasted 5 minutes and 15 seconds, correct?
Yes.
May I approach?
Oh, I went back too far, didn't I?
They telling you that taillight pieces had been found at the location.
Objection.
Sustained.
See how he waits?
Your Honor, may we approach briefly?
Okay.
He's almost like, "Are you going to object?"
Mm-hmm.
Were you being provided information from your friend, Chief Berkowitz, about
Of course he was.
the progress of the investigation?
No.
Were you providing your friend, Brian Albert, information about the progress of the investigation or what you perceived it to be?
No, I didn't have any information on the investigation.
May I have just a moment, Your Honor?
Sure.
See, these people should know better. As soon as this happened, he should have locked his office at the Canton PD and never
You're not
went
interviewing
back
about this
there
case
again.
in any formal capacity until 5 days later, correct?
That sounds about right.
February 1st, Trooper Proctor?
I'm not exactly sure the date, but it was several days after. Yes.
I'm sorry, I said February 1st, maybe it's
I don't-
February 3rd.
I don't know the date, but we were into February.
Where did that interview take place?
Sharon, Mass.
I'm sorry?
Sharon, Mass.
At what location?
Is that a
Sorry?
suburb in
What location?
Massachusetts?
Objection.
I'll see counsel very quickly at sidebar.
Sidebar. He doesn't look happy, does he?
By the time you interviewed with Trooper Proctor,
He knows what's
you already
coming.
had numerous conversations with Brian Albert. Is that safe to say?
Well, the interview was with both Trooper Proctor, Sergeant Buchanan, and of course I've talked to Brian Albert because of what took
Mr.
place.
Higgins, that was a yes or no question.
Yeah, of course I've talked to him. Yes.
Okay, and the answer is yes, right? Can we agree?
The answer is yes.
Thank you. By the time you spoke with Trooper Proctor and Trooper Buchanan, you had already had numerous conversations with Chief Berkowitz, correct?
Yes.
You had already had numerous conversations with Kevin Albert.
Yes.
You had already had this meeting with the Alberts and the McCabe's over at 34 Fairview. Is that right?
I went to the house.
And discussed this case. as you earlier described in your testimony.
I discussed what we were trying to figure out what happened.
You discussed this case, Mr. Higgins.
Well, at that point, it wasn't a case.
Okay, I'm not parsing words about what a case is versus a matter versus an
It
issue.
was a dead man on the lawn. What else do you call it?
Yes.
Is there a reason you don't want to answer that question?
I don't have a problem.
Objection, Your Honor.
No. Is there a reason or why don't you go ahead and
Well, I feel you're trying to make it sound like something it wasn't. It was.
I'm not trying to
It,
make it sound like anything, sir. I'm asking the question.
Was there a
How
dead
did
man
you
on the lawn or
discuss
not?
This case or the issues surrounding this case with those folks.
I did discuss things when I went back to the house. Yes.
And that was before you met with Trooper Proctor and Trooper Buchanan.
Yes,
correct?
that's correct.
You had already spent an enormous amount of time at Canton PD. We've just gone through those records. Is that right?
I have been at Canton PD. Yes.
And you had been able to talk to, you had access at least to all the officers, correct?
What do you mean by? Can you
Anybody that was coming and going at Canton PD.
access for what purpose?
Just to walk by them, to hear what they were saying, see what they were doing.
Yeah, it's not what I was doing. No.
I'm not accusing you of doing anything. I'm saying you had access to the individuals within the Canton PD, correct?
To interact if needed. Yes.
And very obviously you had access to the Sally Port.
And access. Yes. And that's a cut through I used all the time.
And anything that was in it. Correct?
I wouldn't need anything in it.
It was only after all that Michael Proctor thought that you were worthy of a conversation.
Objection.
I'll rephrase it. It was only after all of that you were interviewed by Michael Proctor and Trooper Buchanan, correct?
I wasn't interviewed to the following days. That's correct.
At some point on February 4th, Chief Berkowitz called you to personally inform you that he had personally found taillight at 34 Fairview. Is that right?
He did tell me that, yes.
And to be clear, that's the same Ken Berkowitz that you were with in the Sally Port.
I don't recall being in the Sally Port with him, no.
What did you do with that information when you learned from Chief Berkowitz that he personally saw a taillight piece as he drove by?
I didn't do anything with the information.
Did you call Brian Albert?
No, Brian Albert called me.
You were asked a specific question in the other proceeding in June of 2023, correct?
I don't know if it was the specific question. I was asked a series of questions on how the phone calls came in. That's what I was asked.
And your answer was, it's 100% probable that I told him about that, meaning I told Brian Albert about my conversation with Ken Berkowitz, correct?
It's possible.
Was that your statement or not?
It was my statement then, but I've thought about it, yes.
And you've changed your statement somehow?
I don't know if I changed my statement, but I think the way the phone calls came in is Brian Albert told me, you're not going to believe what was found on the front lawn. And then I believe Ken Berkowitz told me he found the taillight, and I'm referring to the taillight from the both of them. I didn't provide any information to anybody.
Well,
information was provided to me.
What you actually said was, it's 100% probable that I told him about that. Yes, 100%. I'm not hiding that fact, but you're asking me if I recollect specifically. I know I called him after
Objection,
that
Your Honor.
call.
All right, so too many facts. Go slowly.
Sure. You said, yes, 100%, correct?
In that testimony, I did, yes.
And then in that testimony, you went on to say, I'm not hiding that fact, but you're asking me if I recollect specifically, correct?
I don't have it in front of me. That's what you're telling me.
You went on to say, I know I called him after that phone call, correct?
I don't know.
And you went on to say, if that's when Chief Berkowitz told me, listen, I didn't do anything wrong in this, end quote. That was your statement.
Objection.
Prior hearing, correct?
So I'm going to strike the end.
Your Honor, may I?
Yes.
You said you don't recall that entire testimony, right?
Not that portion, but I know I was asked about how the phone calls came in and what was said.
Do you think it would refresh your recollection to see a transcript of your answer?
Is this it right here?
That's it.
I'm going to read it.
May I?
Yes.
Thank you. Does that refresh your recollection to what your testimony was under oath in June of 2020?
I do.
And you said, if that's what Chief Berkowitz told me, if I listen, I didn't do anything wrong in this, correct?
That was the statement I made. Yes.
Why did you say, listen, I didn't do anything wrong in this?
Objection.
Why'd you say that?
Because I felt they were being accusatory, and I was trying to explain what was going on. And what I had said over that was, I believe what I said, something to the effect, I can't be 100% positive. And then when I went on to say, it's probable. But I felt like they were being accusatory, and I was trying to explain how the phone calls came in. I've had time to reflect about it after that, since that testimony. And that information about the taillight that was found was provided by each person. I didn't provide any information to anybody.
Next question. Thank you. You said, look, I didn't do anything wrong in this because it looks like you and Ken Berkowitz were colluding to provide information to Brian Albert, correct?
Objection.
Is that correct?
Absolutely not correct. That's
And
wrong.
you knew that was going to look like collusion, which is why you said, look, I didn't do anything wrong in this.
Objection.
Objection sustained.
Mr. Higgins, if you wanted to get rid of, and you've dealt with cell phones and electronic devices in your career many, many times, correct?
Over my career, yes.
You've probably even written search warrants for them, things of that nature, right?
Yes.
If you wanted to destroy evidence on your cell phone, what kind of steps might you take to do that?
Objection.
Here it comes.
If you wanted to just get rid of information on your cell phone that would be unrecoverable, what steps might you take?
Objection.
Do you know how to get rid of information on your cell phone?
Objection.
That's allowed.
That's allowed.
To that.
Do I know how to get rid of information? I mean, I think there's different ways. You could wipe your phone.
Anything else?
You don't know.
You could wipe your phone.
Good.
Factory reset.
Factory reset might be one, wiping your phone, taking the SIM card out.
I don't know that the SIM card's going to take information that's on the phone.
Was that a pause?
Oh, no. I got your number.
So that might be one avenue. You could break the SIM card in half or snap it.
It could, yes.
You know, the SIM card stores an enormous amount of data that phones just break, right?
No, I don't know that.
Okay. You could also, if you take the SIM card out, you just get rid of the phone somehow, right? Just destroy it.
Yes.
Wasn't he
Might even
caught
consult
on
with some kind of an expert
CCTV?
to help learn how to permanently erase things from a phone, like a forensics expert, for instance.
Objection.
On Saturday, January 29th, you spent much of the morning rather, at Brian Albert's house, and then the rest of the day variously at Kenton PD. You would agree with that, correct?
No, you said I spent much of the morning at Brian Albert's house?
Correct. In other words, you went over there at whatever it was, 7:50, 8 o'clock, something like that, and then until about 9 o'clock.
No, I got over there around 7 o'clock, and I was there less than an hour. I wasn't there most of the day.
Okay,
I never went back there.
So you spent time at Brian Albert's house, then much of the rest of the day at Kenton PD, correct?
Yes.
And then the very next day, that Sunday, you called a friend of yours, a guy named Matt Kelch, didn't you?
Yeah, he's my best friend. Yes.
And he's a special agent with the FBI, isn't he?
No, he's not.
Was he then?
He's never been a special agent with FBI. He's a special agent with ATF.
My mistake. I thought he was with the FBI. He's a federal special agent.
So just for everyone's edification, so as far as the federal government is concerned, when they say special agent, that means someone who has the power to arrest someone. So agent means any member of a, you could be an IRS agent.
Mm-hmm.
You can be an ATF agent, meaning that you work for the ATF. But if you're a special agent, you're the one that carries the gun and can arrest people.
So Brian Higgins, was he a special agent?
He's a special agent. And the guy that his friend that they're talking about right now is also a special agent.
Special agent, right? Got it.
So they can go around and arrest people.
And they've got more authority than just a regular agent. Is that right?
Correct.
He's a coworker of mine, yes.
Which makes him a federal special agent, right?
An ATF agent, yes.
And does
What's
he
the
work
difference?
for or have access to the
Isn't
Regional
ATF
Computer
federal?
Forensics Lab?
Yes, but the confusion here is that his friend, who is a special agent for the ATF, actually works in the FBI building. So he's
okay.
working with FBI equipment and all that stuff, but he's not an FBI special agent. He's a ATF special agent.
Yeah. But he's a phone
And
analysis.
Brian is exploiting this to create confusion.
Mm-hmm. Of course he is.
Yes, he works over there.
Okay, that's the FBI Regional Computer Forensics Lab, correct?
Yes.
That's how I got my mistake. I apologize.
Well, I just want to make sure the record's reflected correctly.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
You reflected
You would
it
be
correctly.
both.
So Matt Kelch is an ATF agent who works at the FBI Regional Computer Forensics Lab, correct?
Yes.
And he's an expert in digital forensics, is he not?
He has a level of expertise more than myself,
And
yes.
he's one of your best friends.
He is my best friend.
You spoke to him about the death of John
very
O'Keefe, did
handy.
you not?
Yes.
And you asked him for a personal favor, sort of off the books, correct?
Objection.
In that form, I'll sustain it.
Did you ask him for a personal favor?
No.
Did you ask him to show you or consult with you how to pull things off of your phone that you decide to get off your phone?
I asked him how I could pull text strings off my cellular telephone for the purpose of providing them to law enforcement.
This was not in connection with any case that he was working, correct?
That's correct.
It was not in connection with any case you were working.
That's an
Correct.
important
Objection.
factor, isn't it? That right there,
Yeah.
because it's
We-
personal gain.
This is a violation of federal law.
Yeah. But it has to be for personal gain. Is that right? That's why you
Yes.
had to establish
And,
that.
and when they say personal gain, it's essentially what it means is personal use of any
Yeah,
kind.
so not involved
And
in
the
any
point
case
that
either.
he was, and the point that he is not actively investigating this crime, and that his friend is not actively investigating this crime. They have no business doing what they're doing
So
on
technically-
using government resources.
So if he changes his statement and says, all right, I was telling Porky Pies, I was actually researching the case whilst I was at Canton Police Department all day, would that get him off the federal charges because he was actively working the case?
I don't think so, because you cannot just insert yourself as an investigator. You can't just decide, oh, I'm going to investigate this case now.
Yeah.
You know,
I just thought it might have been an
that's sort of
out
like-
for him.
right. So I mean that would be like somebody from the Los Angeles Police Department flying to Massachusetts saying, I'm going to investigate this case now, so now I have all the authority that I need. You can't do that.
Yep.
Objection sustained, but you already answered. I'll strike that answer. Second question you can answer. Is this in connection to any case you?
No, Your Honor.
Next question.
But you asked your friend to utilize his resources to teach you how to extract certain information off your phone. Is that what you did?
I asked him if it was possible to get this off, if there was a method to get this off my phone so I could provide it to law enforcement.
And that information was selected by you, correct?
Two particular text threads, yes.
Right. In other words, there was nobody else that was picking and choosing what to get off your phone. That was just you.
It was me, yes.
And the reason you did that, Mr. Higgins, is that you wanted to control and limit the amount of information that was pulled off your phone, right?
Objection.
Is that why you did it?
No, I did it because I wanted to provide it to law enforcement, Your Honor.
Oh, rubbish.
But you could have just provided your phone to law enforcement.
Yeah.
And imaged the entire thing, correct?
I guess that was an option, yes.
And you knew that was an option at the time. And you're a trained ATF agent.
What's the question?
You knew it was an option to just hand your phone over. Just pick it up and give it to them.
And there was also an option to provide it to them as well.
Right. But you chose the one that you got to select the information, not the one where they would get everything, correct?
Objection.
Changes to that form.
Did you actually go to the FBI computer forensics lab?
Yes. Let me correct that. I didn't go to the lab itself. I went to a kiosk, what they refer to as a kiosk on the first floor over at FBI.
Okay.
And all local PDs, law enforcement have access to that.
And that's obviously.
He makes it sound like it's just like an ATM where you just go up and pop your SIM card in and wipe it and whoop, there you go. Thank you. Come again.
Yeah, this
It's an
gets worse.
unrestricted area. You can be in there, as I understand it, unaccompanied if you're local law enforcement.
Okay. And again, here he's sort of obfuscating. He says it's an unrestricted area. It is not. It's unrestricted to local law enforcement. It's not unrestricted, which he's trying to make it sound like anybody from the public could come in and use their computers. So it's not unrestricted.
It's a good pause moment too. Look at that. I'm not sorry. I'm not apologizing.
It's on the first floor.
That is a federal facility, however.
Yes, it is.
Did you utilize any computer or any data extraction machinery, if you will?
Yeah, what's
a computer or something to extract this data?
Well, it was a machine. I don't know what it's called.
Okay, fair enough. I'll use the word machine. I don't know what it's called either. So you hooked that phone up to a machine, correct?
Yes,
And that machine belonged to the FBI. It didn't belong to you. Is that right?
that's correct.
So that was a federal resource, not for anything having to do with any official case that you were working. Isn't that right?
Objection.
Gotcha.
So I need to see you. I know this is time-consuming, but I need to see you.
Now, this is when he brings
Brings his lawyer in.
Yeah.
Well, actually, Bev brought the lawyer in. This is really weird. And, I'm not a lawyer, but
No.
it is extremely unusual to, while the witness is actually on the stand testifying, to bring their lawyer in to now talk with them. And it smacks of trying to alter how he would testify. It looks bad. I don't know if it's illegal or it's a grounds for appeal. It just looks bad.
He knew exactly what was coming to have him there. Exactly what was coming.
Or please, Mr. Conley. If you just go and just stand next to your client, Mr. Jackson's going to make.
We get to find out what he says in 15 minutes.
Make an offer of proof of a question he's about to ask your client, or a couple of questions he's about to ask your client. Doesn't make any sense to me that somebody has counsel and the counsel is not aware of a potential issue. So you'll hear the offer of proof. I'll let you speak to Mr. Higgins before this actually happens before the jury.
I think Alan goes just one step too far in this proffer too.
Yeah.
We'll see it.
All right.
I mean, it's not bad, but
William Connolly, spelled CONNOLLY.
All right.
May I, Your Honor?
Yes.
The witness has indicated that he utilized federal resources for personal gain. The specifics of that testimony have been as follows. He indicated that he contacted Matt Kelch, a federal agent. He indicated that he utilized a federal facility. He called it an unsecure facility, but it's a federal facility notwithstanding. And that the two of them, he and Agent Kelch, utilized federal resources in the form of some kind of a machine, as the witness indicated, for his own personal gain, so that he could, as a witness, in no official capacity, working any official case, and in Matt Kelch's capacity as an individual rather than an agent, they both work together to download certain information from the witness's phone in anticipation of turning that highly selected, highly curated information over to law enforcement so that he could later ultimately destroy his phone, which this witness in fact did.
Okay, so it's not.
So that's where he just went one step further, because there has been no testimony yet that he destroyed his phone. So,
so no foundation.
So Alan was doing great right up to
Until
that point, because he hadn't elicited that from the witness yet.
But the jury still heard it.
Again, it's not, I don't think it's.
Oh, is the jury out? Or are they in?
But
they're out, aren't they?
it just was a little bit of a stretch, and it, good for him for trying it, but I don't think he's going to get away with it.
No, but the jury has left the room, haven't they?
He rang,
Is that right?
yeah,
Proper?
the jury's not there.
Yeah.
Not entire. I disagree with you. I don't think it's reached that level. His testimony was that he went to a kiosk on the first floor where all local police departments can go. It's unrestricted. It's on the first floor. And we just got to the part about a machine in the kiosk when you mentioned an FBI resource. So what is your question?
It's getting spicy there.
What questions do you intend to ask this witness now?
Whether he is aware that under 5 CFR 2635.702, it is a federal offense to use his public office, to use any public office for his own private gain or for the gain of persons or organizations with which you are associated personally. In other words, an FBI agent or an ATF agent cannot use federal resources for personal gain. The fact that he contacted an ATF agent, the fact that he utilized a facility that is owned by the federal government, run by the federal government, paid for by taxpayer dollars, and the fact that he used a machine that is owned by the federal government to download certain information for his own personal gain, that personal gain being, these are the curated texts that I'm going to turn over to law enforcement.
He's good, isn't he?
All right, so those questions are.
They're both good,
going to be asked.
but-
I don't know, there's been an objection to them. I'm not sure I'm going to let them in.
Who's your preference?
But I wanted to give you the
Alan,
opportunity to
he's
sit down with your client in the bathroom there.
He sets the trap and they step right into
I
it.
can do it in about 10 seconds.
Okay,
Sure.
all right.
If you feel the need.
So why don't you go back and talk to him? I'll stop bringing the jury or getting the jury lined up.
Look at her face. So the jury's coming back in.
Be seated for the session.
All right. We have a very few minutes left, Mr. Jackson.
Understood. Mr. Higgins, you indicated that the phone was hooked up to some sort of machine at the FBI kiosk, correct?
Yes.
You're aware, sir, that under 5 CFR 2635.702, you may not use your public office for your own personal or private gain or for the gain of persons or organizations with which you are associated personally under pain of a federal offense, correct?
Objection.
No, Your Honor.
Are you aware that under 5 CFR 2634.704, it's a felony to quote,
Objection, Your Honor, as to
an
reading.
employee,
Go ahead and finish the question.
for an employee, an employee has a duty to preserve and conserve government property and shall not use such property or allow its use for other than authorized purposes. Were you aware of that federal regulation?
That objection sustained.
Sir, notwithstanding those regulations, you utilized the services of Matt Kelch as a friend and a colleague, but utilizing federal resources to pull information off your phone, correct?
Objection.
Sustained as to that form.
In fact, you were successful in getting information off your phone, which is the text that you turn over to the Commonwealth, correct?
Objection.
In that form, you're almost there, Mr. Jackson. That form was improper.
The information that was ultimately pulled off your phone was the information that you selected and you and Matt Kelch worked together to get off your phone, correct?
Objection.
Is that correct?
No, Your Honor, if I could explain.
Sure.
He walked me through on how I could pull the text string with John O'Keefe and the defendant. He walked me through the process, how to use the machine.
And then you did that.
I did do that. That's
And
correct.
That's what you turned over to the police.
That's correct.
And any other information would still be on your phone ending in 5421, correct?
Well, that information stayed on my phone. I just took those strings off and provided them to the Mass State Police.
Right. So where's your phone?
I do not have that phone anymore.
You destroyed that phone, haven't you?
No, I threw the phone away.
Well, that's destroying the phone, isn't it?
I had every right to do that.
I
Didn't
ask
say
you
if you wanted to
rights.
write.
I asked you what you did.
Objection.
Sustained.
You destroyed the phone by removing the SIM card. Correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
Did you do that? Did you pull the SIM card out?
Objection.
Did you pull the SIM card out of your phone?
Your Honor, to the best of my recollection, if I did take the SIM card out, I would have when I threw it away, if I was going to take it out, I would break it or cut it. But I did not wipe the phone. I did not take anything else off it. But if I was going to throw the phone away, that's what I would have done.
Okay.
You know, as an ATF agent with electronic data experience, when you pull the SIM card out and break it, and then throw the phone away and the SIM card away, you don't need to wipe the phone.
Objection.
Sustained. Mr. Jackson, that's it.
Your Honor.
One more question.
I can do this in 30 seconds. I think. You were aware
I did.
that there was a court order that you not alter, delete, or destroy, or in any way manipulate your phone or the electronic data associated with it, correct?
Objection.
As to what date?
As of September 23rd, I'm sorry, September 30th, 2022.
Objection.
And wasn't it the day before?
I don't believe that's what the court order was. I think it's
I
was.
can make a quick offer of proof. That's exactly what it was that he was notified.
Were you aware of that? Was that your understanding?
What's the question exactly, Your Honor? I'm sorry.
That's the question again.
Sure. Were you served with a copy of a notice on September 30th, 2022, that you not alter or destroy or manipulate anything on your phone on September 30th?
I was served an order. Yes, that's correct.
And isn't it true in another hearing, you explained that on September 29th, the day before you claim you got that notice, you changed phone carriers and changed phone numbers?
And I maintained the phone.
Until you didn't. And you destroyed it a month later by pulling the SIM card out and throwing it away, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
Did you do that in October? Did you destroy that phone?
Objection.
Sustained.
Did you pull the SIM card out of your phone, Mr. Higgins?
He's waiting.
It's possible that I did. I believe that's how I've testified. Yes.
You testified.
It's possible that if I took it out, that it was either cut or broken.
It's not just possible.
So that.
And that would have been after the date the order was already denied.
Mr. Higgins, I have one question left. One question. Did you, Mr. Lowley's already standing. I haven't even started.
Have a seat, Mr. Lally. Go ahead. Last question, Mr. Jackson.
Quiet, please, quiet.
Mr. Higgins, very simply, and then we're done. Did you remove the SIM card for that phone, drive onto a military base, throw the SIM card in one dumpster and the phone in a different dumpster?
That is not correct.
Did you testify that?
Was your one question, Mr. Jackson?
Oh, Bev!
All right, folks, that's it for today. We will see you Tuesday.
Well,
have a great
Yeah,
night.
that one question, he was sitting there like, are you going to object, please, so I don't have to answer this?
He needed to change his undies for sure. Well, we couldn't have tried that better, bro. Look at that. Hey?
Perfect.
Did you hear that? Ba-ding! That was live. Massachusetts versus Karen Reed, Day 18 Court TV notification.
I'm
Well,
heading
thank
over
you
there.
very, very much.
Thank you so much. I enjoyed it.
It was fun.
I'll be at my real job for the remainder of the week, so I won't
Not a problem.
likely be able
can
to
hop on
join
whenever
you
you like.
in the morning. But I will check your schedule for next week.
Well, whenever you
And thanks
see
again.
I'm on, you know where I am.
All righty. You have
Thank
a
you.
nice night. It's Betty
I
Bye time
will.
there, I
Have a
think.
fabulous day off. And thank
Thank
you for
you.
joining us. And I didn't get to do my theory or anything, but we'll do that next time.
All
All right.
righty.
Enjoy. I'm going to watch
Take
court.
Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm off to Betty Bye's, seeing as it's 11 p.m. here in Australia. So where is my outro? I was a bit excited there. All right. Have yourselves a fantastic day, and we shall see you next time. I bid you adieu.
Covering true crime and police arrest, where the judges move and the defense rests. Watching courts and trials, criminals at best, where the gavel drops and the defense